Now, we're entering into our second part of the conversation, and that is in regards to the National Dialogue Committee report that was recently halted by a Kiambu court in terms of its implementation, pending a case that it is before the court. Now, this judgment was given by none other than Lady Justice Dora Chepkwony, who issued the order in a Kiambu court. Remember, there was a petitioner who took that particular case to court, and that is activist Michael Muchemi. The petitioner told the court that any attempts to have Parliament process the contents of the NADCO report will plunge the country into an unprecedented constitutional crisis. Remember, this is a particular report that is before the Jailer Committee of both houses, that is the National and the Senate, and they're yet to even discuss the tenets, the key tenets that have been proposed both by the government and the opposition. Now, during a rally this particular weekend, Easter weekend rather, we saw the Azimio principals led by Kalonzo Musyoka, Eugene Wamalwa and others reading malice into this particular court case, of course slamming the courts, but saying they will not adhere to this particular issue and calling upon President William Ruto and the ODM chief Raila Amolo Odinga to ensure that what they had agreed in that particular report is passed. Now, to have this conversation, we do have political analysts, governance experts, and of course a senator. Let me start on my immediate left. That is Dr. Isaac Hassan, a governance expert. Daktari, karibu sana. Thank you. And of course, Senator Tabitha Mutinda, the Vice Chair of the Finance Committee. We have retained her here so that she can touch upon this particular issue. It is a matter that is before the Senate and the National Assembly as well. Of course, we also have Oscar Omondi, a political analyst. Oscar, karibu tena. And then on the farthest end, it is Philip Pande, Youth Inclusion Advisor. Philip, karibu.
Thank you, Abdi.
Let me start with Daktari. Daktari, the opposition is saying it is reading malice. It is I'm coming to you, Daktari. Let me head over to Senator. Senator, let me start with you, given that we're trying to sort out Daktari in just a few. Senator, the case has been taken to court. The court has said you should not implement this NADCO report until a case before it is heard and determined. We know that the issue is before the jailer committees of both houses, which are yet to even discuss this particular issue. Does this mean they'll have to stop what they're doing?
Abdi, the question is, where are we coming from when we talk about this NADCO report, and what was the case that this one guy called Michael Muchemi, took to court? You realize he was specific into the issue of the audit of the election. Article 81 of the Constitution is very clear in terms of the electoral process. It needs to be transparent, it needs to be accountable, there needs to be an electoral system, that is the IEBC, and all that. And members of Parliament, the MCAs, the senators, the governors, everyone is in office. So if this process was not correct, then why is Parliament in place? You know, we are off and so beyond. I mean, we've moved on so much. We are coming from a point of maandamano, which was brought about by the concerns of matters like the cost of living. And where are we today as we speak? The cost of living has gone down. Look at where the cost of unga. Over the Easter, I was just shopping around and I saw that unga is retailing as low as 99 shillings. The cost of fuel, fertilizer subsidy that has been there. And the digital economy, many other factors in place. So the issue that has been taken to court by this guy, this is someone who wants just to, try to look for relevancy. NADCO report was a 10-member committee, and it was from both sides of the coalition, the Kenya Kwanza and the Azimio coalition, led by none other than Honorable Kalonzo Musyoka, and on this other side by Chungwa. These are very experienced leaders who are there, who are able to sit throughout the process and were able to discuss and come out on different issues in both Senate and the National Assembly, who are able to adapt this particular report. So I think at times people are just trying to look for relevancy and trying to, as much as he has a right, at times there is that. Sadly, I've seen the leader, that is Honorable Kalonzo, coming out and condemning these issues and trying to paint Kenya Kwanza as sabotaging again this process. But he's a lawyer. What he should do, then he should go to court, and stop taking a lot of airtime on national television, trying to, keep on trying to complain and start tainting it as a Kenya Kwanza sabotage issue. He was on table, he had a platform, he was a among the people who signed onto the report. So it should not be looked as if something that is not really, I mean, something that is a bit loose, then it's something that Kenya Kwanza is trying to do this negatively and all that. I've also seen the likes of Eugene Wamalwa, for Christ's sake. This leader was part of that committee. He did not sign that report. He started lamenting. And they are here on national TV trying to get relevancy, yet they had the whole time on that particular table and that particular sitting to be able to point out their issues. Then why did he not, one, do what we call a minority report? Or why did he not walk out and let them be 9 members at that particular time? These people have been paid, money has been expensed, both from Senate and National Assembly, over 100 million on this particular NADCO report, such that now there's members who want to be so relevant, and they had the whole time. Okay, what we want to discuss, what we should be expecting them to discuss, that is Honorable Kalonzo and Eugene, we should be seeing them on the front and supporting Baba on the AU, as we've shown our support as Kenya Kwanza to Baba on the AU. Okay.
Oscar, let me rope you into this conversation.
Yes. I was prepared to come and discuss what's going on in court, and you asked Senator whether GLAC in both houses are going to stop. She didn't really respond to that position, because that is what we really need to know, that because the fact is this thing is in court. The court has halted the process. What happens in Parliament, and that is the main point. Anyway, as I discussed here with your co-guy last week, is that the NADCO report has no political goodwill at this particular time. Just from what the Senator is really discussing, that the CEO of the country himself, he's never said anything about the NADCO report.
He said the president had a voice. The president supported the report itself. ODM leader Raila Odinga, the president, said they support the document as is.
Yes.
Endorsing the document, just supporting the document. We need some demonstration that actually this is what is there. But what the Senator is saying is that the main point of the report was things like cost of living. In fact, Honorable Eugene Wamalwa didn't sign the report, and what is his excuse? That it didn't address the cost of living. Senator here is saying that as we speak now, the dynamics have changed. The most important things that why we got here, the mandamanos are no longer there. And the Senator is driving that now, let's focus on the AU. It's because they're saying that it is not important anymore at the moment. The issue is that when we have those issues that were there in the report, I've gone through even the bills that were prepared for Parliament. Some of the things that were supposed to be in the report, it was they were negotiating. I don't think if they came to a conclusion out of the negotiations at Bomas. When this document goes to Parliament, from what the Senator is saying, with a parliamentarian, is that they've never agreed. People have never agreed on what do we want to implement. For example, just forget about even the court case. Even the court case, what is being brought to court is that this thing is going to open wounds that were already, because they're going to talk to things like opening the server of the IEBC, for example. Now, Kenya Kwanza, in their spirit, want the report implemented, but they don't want to change the structure of the Constitution. If you bring this report as it was from Bomas to Parliament, that means you have leader of opposition in Parliament. That means you have the Prime Minister, who is leader of government business in Parliament. If you do that, that means you change the structure of the Constitution. The structure of the Constitution cannot be changed unless this thing goes through a referendum. Those counties have to sign and everything has to happen. I don't think if that is the goodwill that Kenya Kwanza have. The bills that they've prepared shows that the leader of opposition, of official opposition, and the leader of government business, who is the Prime Minister, will reside out of Parliament. That is the idea, because they currently have a ceremonial Prime Minister in the name of Musalia Mudavadi, who is not a resident of legislature. So they want that if you bring in the leader of the opposition, put it out of Parliament. If it's put out of Parliament, that means the structure of government is not going to change. And it doesn't have to go for a referendum. But all in all, I think NADCO is dead. The goodwill is there. we don't have the goodwill anymore.
Okay.
And from what the senator is saying, that let's focus on the AU because that was supposed to be the leader of the position.
Okay. Senator, I'll be coming to you. Let's allow our other guests to also chime in this conversation. Let me go to Daktari. Daktari, your thoughts, and as well what is Oscar is saying and what the senator is saying as well. Is there goodwill?
I think the way our two colleagues have picked the issue, slightly different from the way, the perspective that I want to take it. NADCO report is a process that was agreed upon by political wings. And of course, the purpose was to make sure that Kenya, which was not at ease after coming out of elections, comes into at ease at that particular time. There are a number of things that have emerged from the NADCO report, which our parliamentarians decided just to shut their eyes out of it. But a goodwill Kenyan has identified something which is very critical that is likely to cause another crisis, which is, he says he did not brush off all the NADCO report. What he said was that, he said in the NADCO report, the issue of auditing the server for 2022 election has no constitutional backing. Because the constitutional backing, what we are talking about is, according to our constitution, the Supreme Court or other courts decides on political election disputes. And now that that is not the case, and we are trying to find another arena to address that issue, then it means then we are trying to put aside the constitutional guide and go into a report that is, that came as a result of political engagement. And therefore, I think the point that we need to take home is that we must also now consciously understand what is in the NADCO report, the implication of those reports' action points as we implement it, but the content of the NADCO report in the other 5 indicators, I mean 5 points that they reported, I think those are very significant in terms of bringing the country to, together. But I think there is something that we need to understand. The point that everyone missed, that this Kenyan has pointed out, needs to be addressed. What is the, for example, Senator, I want to ask one question. What are we going to achieve by auditing the 2022 election? Will it going to change the current electoral leadership? Will it going to contribute to anything that will going to change the landscape of our election process? What is it exactly? Audit means what has happened is what we are trying to look at it. So as soon as we see that, we must know that the outcome should be of beneficial to 2027 election, and it should be beneficial to the current system. So are we trying to say that if the court finds, or rather if the audit finds that the election had a lot of malpractice, we again call for another election and dissolve all your seats, which is not likely to happen, because Kenyans are not, that's not where we want to go. We want these 5 years to be completed. We plan ourselves and strategize for 2027 and make sure that Kenyans are served. We don't want to subject this country into another political and election menace. So I think mine is to say that I think there is something that is logically being pointed out by this Kenyan who has gone to court. Our parliamentarians should be sober now and look at it again and say, what is the implication after having that evidence, after having that activity completed within the process of NADCO report.
Okay. Philip?
Many thanks, Abdi. I would want to begin by saying that the ultimate measure of a democracy is the application of the rule of law. And in this process, what we're experiencing is the ability of our courts, the ability of our judicial system, and the ability of our citizens to navigate the path of the understanding, the interpretation of the law and its application. The NADCO report, as we have always said from the beginning, was going to take the BBI route. And I would dare say that it would still take the BBI route so long as the two parties, and that's basically the presidency and the opposition, are in agreement that we want to go this journey and walk it to the end. I'm saying so because the NADCO report is a political document put together by politicians, by two warring parties. Now, the difference between this document and, or this process and the BBI process is that the BBI court cases came pretty later in the stage and basically challenging the position of the president to propose a popular initiative. And then at the tail end, it collapsed. Now, the advantage that this process in the NADCO is taking is that most of the court cases, like the one that we're discussing today, is coming up pretty early in the stage. And it would take a route of helping lose some of the burdens or some of the baggages within the process. And having learned from the previous BBI process, if the president and the opposition leader still agree that they're going to proceed with the NADCO report, it will see the light of the day. And I would say some of the issues that will be dropped, as we've seen in the process, Eugene Wamalwa has held the position that the cost of living has not been effectively addressed in the document. In the process, the cost of living will exit the NADCO report. A Kenyan has gone to court challenging the constitutionality of discussing the issue of auditing of the server. We will realize that it's actually not constitutional, but it's political. And so if we agree that it's not constitutional and we want to get a lighter weight proceeding, then they will drop the issue of the audit. And so ultimately we'll end up with a few issues. One will be the creation of the official opposition leader and embedment in the Constitution. The second one would be the creation of the position of the Prime Minister in our electoral system. The third one would be the gender issue. The fourth would be the issue of national government CDF. But as a person that is so keen on youth inclusion matters, my worry from the beginning, from the onset of the NADCO, even in the composition of the teams from the president's side and from the opposition leader side, the youth issue was absolutely neglected, was not taken into effect, because the other argument was when we had the conflict between the opposition side and the government side, the people that were on the front line, the people that faced the bullet, the people that were killed and maimed in the process were young people, primarily. But then we've effectively forgotten those issues pretty fast. We've maximized our debate on the gender lens. We've maximized our issue on inclusivity, but inclusivity for the big political bigwigs in this country without paying attention to the people that really matter. So my argument would be, because we're going to proceed with a political process, and because we are going to drop rather a majority of those issues and remain with those that would fit into a referendum bill, let us remember the issue and the position of youth inclusion in this process.
And of course, both committees of the JLAC clearly stated they have two options, either the parliamentary route or the referendum itself. As I come to you, Senator, we're talking about both leaders have already supported the report. There is goodwill. Where did it change?
And thank you, Abdi, for emphasizing that. Because when I listened to my good brother, Oscar, when he said that the two leaders are not having goodwill, I mean, they've spoken. We had our PG last month in Naivasha, and our party leader, the president, came out and said publicly that he's going to support NADCO. We've seen Honorable Raila also coming and saying he's going to support. They've all embraced this particular report. And also, on the first earlier question that you had asked about the JLAC committees, both in National Assembly and in the Senate, in terms of still progressing, Parliament is an independent body, and we are still going to continue with our mandate. Nothing stops us. But now, narrowing it to what this gentleman Michael had alighted and brought in terms of the audit of the last general elections. Remember, we had a court process that took place, that the opposition went to court. The courts were able to, give them time and listened to the case, and they were able to do their ruling. So it is very simple, because this matter has been addressed by the same court. And that's why the other key issues, which one of the key issues from where I sit as a woman legislator, is on the issue of the two-third gender rule. It's one of our key priorities, and I'm happy because the president is supporting this. We've also seen Honorable Raila, when he had the discussions with one of the multi-stakeholders, that is Rosa Amdani, and was able to affirm to us that he's going to support the issue of the two-third gender. The funds that Philip has also been able to mention, it's not even only NGTCDF, we also have NGAF, and we also have the Oversight Fund of the Senate, the office, of course, of the opposition leader. The other critical issue in this report is the issue of the IBC. Today, as we speak as a country, it's sad because we have constituencies that are not being represented today in Parliament, and they deserve, like any other Kenyans, to have equal representation as mandated. But because of the lack of the issue of the formation of the IBC, then it forms a challenge. In a nutshell, when I talked about focusing of the AU chairmanship, you've seen the positive goodwill that we've offered to the opposition leader by the President, Honorable Musalia Mudavadi, coming out and being able to lobby for them. And it's a polite communication that Kenyans have moved on. Kenyans are away from the issues of wanting to be taken back to Mandamano. I listened to my good leaders here, and when we were talking about, we are going to go back to the streets. Kenya Kwanza wants to sabotage. It cannot be a nation of leaders, of, being crybabies all the time, yet they had a platform. People want now to, it's actually a rainy season, we thank God for it. We want to deal with the issue of cartels who are dealing with fake fertilizers in this country, who are trying to sabotage our manifesto, our focus on food security. Those are the issues we want to deal with. Raila has been supported by Kenya Kwanza. We've moved on, We want to deal with the real issues. Yes, that affect Kenyans Senator, directly. Given that
it's already 11, the debate is getting heated, but we'll be back with that particular rebuttal. Don't worry, Oscar, Philip, as well as Daktari, you'll have your chance. We need to take a short breather. When we come back, we're talking about this NADCO report. You can also chime in into the conversation via social media platforms at KBC Channel 1 and at Abdiaziz Hashim 1. Don't go too far.
Let me remind you, I've been doubting you for quite some time now. I've been figuring out who you really are. I know you're not the woman you pretend to be.
For heaven's sake, we're talking about something that happened 20 years, Alonzo.
So you'd better start telling me the truth, both of you. I demand you to tell me the name of that woman behind your brother's death. Now!
I want you to be very careful, because this is not the end of this.
What kind of relationship did you have with Miss Ligia Cervantes?
I had nothing to do with her.
Then tell me exactly why your name and signature are on the rental agreement of the victim's apartment.
他和申玉飞都在做些没有意义的事。
你是申玉飞死前见的最后一个人。
幸好他家有监控。
我一定能找到，我一定能找到被替代的人。
核太阳是真实的存在，
真实存在。这是三体世界自然结构的基础。
这个游戏不盈利，目的是什么？
Kenya Broadcasting Corporation is Kenya's most trusted news and entertainment brand. grow your business, acquire more clients, and reach new, diverse audiences by advertising with us. We connect brands to audiences that matter, driving results for brands and enhancing your current marketing strategies. We have packages for all needs, and no product is too small for us. Contact us today and capitalize on our combined power of radio, TV, and digital platforms. KBC, connecting Kenyans.
Welcome back and thank you for staying with us. We're discussing the unfolding incidences that we saw in the courts this early in the Easter weekend in terms of the NADCO report being halted after an activist named by Michael Mushemi took to the courts the NADCO report, saying its implementation could plunge the country into a crisis. Where are we with this particular report? We already have our guests here. Let me get to introduce them once more. Dr. Isaac Hassan, a governance expert. We also have Oscar Omondi, a political analyst. Senator Tabitha Mutinda, the Vice Chair of the Finance Committee of the Senate. Philip Pandey, Youth Inclusion Advisor. Let me come back to you, Daktari. What the petitioner has already taken to court, we're even discussing it off air right now. Are those concerns valid?
Concerns, when you look at it overall, it could be valid, but the petitioner mentioned a very critical point, which is we had a court process legally by known through our systems that when election has a dispute, then the process is through the court. And there is a provision for that in our constitution. When political process started, and this instability, as I earlier said, was in the limelight, then oppositions came with a card called audit for auditing the server. So now, if you audit a server 2 years into the government, current government, now it shows that, I mean, we disown all the process that is legally allowed, the court process, particularly the Supreme Court that has clearly addressed the issue of presidential petition. And on that note, they proved that everything that the petitioners during the petition was cleared by the courts. So if that has been cleared, I'm asking a question. What is the value of having another audit process which was already completed by Supreme Court that will not going to add any value into the current process or political process that we are undergoing? Okay. I know my colleagues will look at issues of we want to understand what has happened. So what? Okay. You are just trying to emotionally damage people who are having support for different political wings, and now causing a bit of mistrust among the court processes. And therefore, we don't want to bend our constitution. What I'll tell my brother Oscar, he's looking at me very seriously, is that I think the only thing we have, the only option we have, is that let political process be addressed politically and let constitutional issues be addressed constitutionally. And we want our constitution to stand. Political processes are individual interest, and we will not want to address that anymore. We are tired of anything, political games that we know at one point when the person engages all the youth and then eventually drops once he gets his cake. I mean, the leader of the opposition, Honorable Raila, whom we are plotting for EU Commission's chair, AU Commission chair, has dropped all the issues that he was advocating for the youth. Immediately he has been given a ground to go and address his individual interest. So I think we don't want to misuse our youth. We want to move forward. Let's focus on our constitution and let's do what is constitutionally constitutional. Okay, Oscar?
I think we're getting too shallow about some of these things. The process even for the senator who is seated here, for us to even get that Senate, to get her to that position, was a whole process that took us years and years. These Mandamanos, Sabasabas of this world, the Shikuku Martins of this world, the change constitution affair that we started in 1992, brought us to dealing with political process and putting them in the constitution. So you cannot divert the political process from the constitutional process. Constitution itself is a political process. You know the bombers. It is a political process. It's a negotiated process. The constitution that 2010 that we got, you had the Yashpal guy. People were seated there. Then we had the Waki report, the Amos Wako constitution. Then we had the first referendum, the second referendum to come up with that document. That document is not static. If there are problems in the constitution, this is the second time we are trying to do a constitutional amendment. If this one fails again, it will be a show that probably this constitution cannot be able to be amended. We had the BBI process. There were very good things in the BBI and very awkward things in the BBI. But the politics of the day, again, overran all those ideas. These things like 2/3 gender parity in Parliament that the Senator is talking about today, they were in the BBI document. The BBI document was a robust document. You know very well that even for us to get a new constitution, it was too much compromise process. Even by the time BBI goes for publishing, it was so much compromise. It was not this radical document that we started making with the BBI process. At the end of the day, the court stopped it. The courts, according to me, the courts were not supposed to trash the whole BBI. The courts were supposed to maybe select a few issues, like what Philip is saying, that probably we should look at this.
I think...
let him finish. No, let him finish. Let him finish, Dr. You will correct him. No. You will correct him. I'll give you an opportunity.
I think we need to be very particular about these issues. For example, the Senator is talking about that the gender issue should be passed. He's talking about the youth issue. There are very many issues that are bundled up in this document. For example, you know about the IBC. We don't have a commission. Yes. It is also inside this BBI, this document. If we trash the whole thing, they say throwing the water with the baby. It is not a good idea. The thing that the IBC should be audited, the idea behind auditing it was not really to remove the entire system in public. But we need to know, maybe just for academic issues, what went wrong, what has been going wrong, so that it informs continuous conversation that we The Constitution even itself, Daktari, it is not cast in stone. If we have a Constitution that we cannot amend, we cannot change, then we are in a problem.
Okay. Daktari, just a minute. Let's take it to Philip, and then I'm coming back to you.
I just want to... Actually, also need to respond to him. So before you respond...
And also also respond to what Oscar is saying. It is a political process. The reason as why it has been taken to Parliament, it needs constitutional backing. So as much as it is a political process, that is why it had to be taken to Parliament.
Abdi, I still take this point, that the court process that has started now through the Michael's petition is such a huge eye-opener in the process of the NADCO report implementation. This is why. BBI stopped at the tail end. When we had done public participation across the country, when we came up with the document, when we went through the counties and got an overwhelming majority endorsing the process, when we went through the both houses of Parliament and a referendum was at play, we only needed to go back and start the process of the campaigns on a yes or no vote on what was supposed to be implemented. And then it halted. Today, Michael has picked just one issue that is peculiar to the report, that the server audit process or request is not constitutional and should not end up in Parliament or should not end up in this particular document. And I would say a big thank you to him, because what he's making in the process is to make the implementation of this report lighter. Lighter because you are shedding off all the burdens, you are shedding off all the gray areas and remaining with a watertight document that talks about some peculiar issues probably that we would want to see as a nation. I would say this, we all agreed that this is a political process. We've all agreed that a constitution is a political process, and so it's amendment. In political processes, you negotiate, you drop off issues, you go and proceed with others. It is high time that when we talk about the IBC issue, that's a fundamental issue because the server is an IBC server. So as we address the issue of IBC, which I know we are coming to, it should be able to touch on how we deal with our server, remitting and processing of our results, and their relay at the end of the day. And that process has been tackled previously. So let's leave that with the IBC. So what there need to be is that let's have a watertight document and shed off all the baggages that we are still having clinging on to the referendum issues or the referendum questions that we are supposed to have. For example, if we end up with the NADCO document being our referendum document, what would be the referendum question on the IBC audit? Or the server audit, but where there would be a specific question on, do we want the office of the opposition leader or not? Do we want the office of the prime cabinet secretary or not? Do we want to achieve the 2/3 gender rule or not? And what are the frameworks of achieving that? Some of those things are already work in progress. And then the big question is, what would be the threshold of youth representation in parliament, in government? And this is the response that I would want to give to my brother,
30 seconds.
Daktari. He's mentioned the opposition leader as having used the youth in the political process. Every single politician in this country, in this world, talks about youth empowerment. He is a politician and is campaigned on the platform of youth empowerment and women inclusion. The opposition leader during the campaigns had a robust plan, and his promise was he would have 4 young people in his cabinet. It's unfortunate he did not become president. He could not implement the 4 youth in his cabinet. But we have a government, we have institutions. How are our institutions in this country responding to the aspect of youth inclusion? And I've mentioned this every other single day. If I talk about the youth ministry, which I hope you will allow me time at the tail end to talk about, there are some robust and specific things that the ministry has been able to do. But what are other government institutions, including cabinet, implementing as so far as youth inclusion and youth empowerment is concerned? Not just about the opposition leader, not about a particular political leader, but ourselves as a country. So let us not political about issues that are so peculiar and fundamental in this country. Let us give them the broader perspective, a neutral perspective, because we all have young people in our constituencies, in our country, and we have an agenda with them.
Okay, let me go to Daktari now. Correct what you wanted to correct.
I think it is important for us to note the difference between constitutional amendment and the NADCO report. NADCO report has nothing to do with our constitutional report amendment. Our constitutional amendment is based on the fact that after every 10 years, experts meet and see where the constitution needs an amendment. Partly, part of it, you will add some of
Let him finish. I'm coming to you.
Some of them, you're going to add some of them. Politicians are not exception to that team. But constitutional amendment process is led by experts who understand what constitution means. And that's how the process of our constitution was built. We need to understand that. Number two, NADCO was as a result of a crisis, political crisis, and addressing individual interests, which was very clear. The only thing that was of concern to the larger population was the cost of living, which by one way or another automatically solved itself. And therefore, we no longer talk about the cost of living at the moment because of the, be it the government strategy or be it that the fact that nature has favored us and we had rains and a lot of other things and the cost has drastically reduced. We will not want to, underscore the fact that cost of living has improved. But one point that I want to bring to the table is, if we are talking about leader of opposition, if we are talking about office of the prime cabinet, these are new things into the constitution, and you said we must change our governance system. Earlier on, which was proposed during the constitution development, but we opted to have presidential system. We never wanted to take parliamentary system. And therefore, when we have gone for presidential system, we remain that way. And now that is where politicians come in, that they look at their interest. But all other factors we are talking about, including gender, youth issues, these are things which are already in the constitution, and we expect our parliamentarians to develop the necessary laws to make sure that it is implemented, and we know how best it will going to be operationalized. But this is not something new that we are coming up with. So the new thing we are coming up with are the 2 offices. And the things that which took us to the street was cost of living. And election processes are not something that we can always talk about. It's always a reaction. We all reacted when we lost our seats. But eventually, reality catches up with you that the fact that this other particular person has been elected over you, you need to accept and move on. We are not accepting to move on. And if we don't accept to move on, we'll keep on changing the constitution, we'll keep on attacking IEBC, and we'll keep on staying in constitutional crisis where we are currently. Because a constitution in my neighborhood, Banisa constituency in Mandera, has no member of parliament for the last 1.5 years after the demise of the former member of parliament. Is that constitutional crisis? We move on. We moved on. So if we moved on, then there are a lot of things that we can just continue and move on.
Wait, let me give it to Senator, because I know you're rushing somewhere, Senator. Just, are we ready as a country? Because we know the options that are before both committees, JLAC of the National and Senate, they even clearly stated, Murungara clearly stated it, they have the option of going through a referendum or even going through parliamentary route. As a country, are we ready to go for a referendum?
Very good question this morning, and we are not. And we are not because, let me appreciate the sentiments and the input of Philip. When he talks about the issues of the youth, the issues of the women, and those are the discussions we want to have. We need to focus and move on and have such kind of inputs in place. And I like that him being a youth representative, he's focusing, and that's what he wants to embrace. Those are the things that we want to be engaged on, but not as Dr. Hassan says that, you know, we looking at some of the issues that we have in the report, they were not the issues that were aired out during the protest times. What came to light so much was the issue of the cost of living. Has that been addressed? It could not maybe have been addressed at 100%, but we've made strides. You know, earlier I talked about some of the costs that we've been able to witness and see, especially the cost of unga that has gone down. Fertilizer from 7,500 to 2,500. The issue of the digital economy, free visa, and many other things that we've been able to discuss and put, the dollar issue. You know, the dollar issue. A lot we've been able to progress. And looking at today where we are, with all humility, you see that Honorable Raila is not even engaging so much in terms of the issues of maandamano and those other negative issues. You know, he's focused on where we want him to go as a country. And actually, Honorable Raila is not going to go there at his own capacity. He's going there, you know, as at the capacity of a country, as an East African, you know, and that is why he has full support, even from the other East African region. There is full support, and we need to embrace and have discussions of where we are moving forward, and like having discussions of where we've been, you know, and this issue of expecting that we need to do things the same old way and expect new things to happen. It can't. We are in 2024, for Christ's sake. The way politics was done in 2002 is different from how it's being done, and that's why we are going to keep on seeing very new faces of leadership, even moving forward. And I pray for people like, you see, like the energy that I see Philip even put on the ground, and the advocacy that he has had continuously. You know, such brains in future, having a platform, then they'll be able to do positives. And that can only be able to happen if we move forward from where we are coming from, where we've been, and moving forward. the old NADCO issue, in a nutshell, it's a political process, but requires the constitutional amendments to be done so that it's much affected. Some of the issues like NGCDF, GAF, the oversight, these are things that are already in place. Okay. Women reps, they have the GAF. Senate, they have the oversight fund. We have the MPs with the NGCDF. It's been there. So there are only two that issue is not new in this country. It's been there. It's only that as we speak, it's not constitutional, but there is room for that particular discussion. So we cannot just narrow this thing into issues of audit and make it look like the country is a stalemate. We are accepting a move on. And look at this young generation, including myself, who are in this particular parliament, the energy that we have, the extra energy. As I told you in the morning, I always wake up very early. Like today, I woke up at 4:30 to prepare to start with my morning show at KTN. And I'm here, and the reason I have to leave early because I have other engagements. We could be on recess, but we never relax because we have committees that are ongoing. We are working, and the beauty is that with the extra energies that we have, I'm not saying they're all, with all due respect, that they slag behind, but I'm just trying to appreciate that more young people need to be given an opportunity, need to come, and we should desist from these things of, if it was not for this that have happened, where would you have been? Where, is it that we are trying to not appreciate the processes that have been there? They have been there, they've taken place. That is why we are Oscar. That's where we have the seats that we have today, and we need more seats for the youth, and we need to appreciate that we cannot be all the time trying to weaken and not appreciate the processes that are there. If, as a government, we are supporting, and I keep on repeating that, if we as a government, we are supporting the AU position for Kenya, a Kenyan leader, an experienced leader, that is where the talks should be. And I'm seeing right now, you realize, I've seen the opposition, the ODM are trying to look into succession issues. They've appreciated. They are moving forward. They're not ranting and saying, oh, Baba, you should not go, you should be here. It's good because it's opening doors for the other people that he has been able to mentor and take up that leadership, and we progress and move on and look at that leadership from an international level, and like just having the same status quo. These things of people wanting to sit and things just operating the same way they've operated years, even before people were born, and we're just there. We are tired. We need new things with much vibrancy. Thank you, Abdi.
Thank you so much for coming in today. And of course, we need to let Senator go because we do understand President William Ruto is currently chairing a National Steering Committee meeting. The talks is focusing on the grassroots election, and that is